Hi there guys, Joel here from Aussie Chart Trends. Today's update is for Tuesday the 19th of February 2013. Before we get into today's update of the S&P 500 and the Asx200, I need to remind you that the website and this video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in this video is intended to be used as any form of investment advice. I'm not a licensed professional. You need to make your own decisions regarding your investments. I'm just here to help anyone searching for a practical direction in today's markets. Okay, let's take a look now at the S&P 500. Firstly, looking here at the 30-minute chart of the S&P 500, we've been watching this red channel go up for some time now, but of late we've found that the S&P has been getting underneath this channel, then back into the channel again, then out of the channel, and then back into the channel. So this line has not been working as one would expect. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower the trend line a little bit to line up with the lows that we've seen here in early February. Now guys, where we bounced on Friday is exactly at the same level as these lows here, and that lines up perfectly with the low that we had there in early January. So guys, I think what's going on here is we're still in an upward channel that is intact. Now you might look at this top channel line here and go, well, what's going on with that? Because that used to be down here. Well, what I've done is I've just created a parallel line simply by left clicking, by the way, and just clicking create parallel line. That creates the exact same line as what we've got here, and I've just brought that up to the top line here. As you can see, that meets up perfectly. That defines our rising channel. Now guys, the top line doesn't really have any touches at all, but that's not of real concern. The real concern to us is watching this bottom line here, because it has 3 levels of confirmed support, and we just need to wait to see if this red line will break. Let's take a look on the 15-minute chart now and have a look at what we could expect in the coming week ahead. Well, in tonight's trade, we may see the S&P come up and curl over to break this red line. It is a possibility, and if we were to do that over tonight's trade or the next couple of days, we may be looking at a very, very small head and shoulders top. That's where we see a left shoulder here, a double head, and then a right shoulder form. So we're not there yet, but we'll have plenty of warning to see if the S&P comes down to take this rising level of support out. But guys, this is a very, very small pattern, and even though with head and shoulders top patterns they only have minimum expected targets and they could go a lot further, we have a level of support down there in the 1500s that is only a 20-point drop or so. But overall, with the S&P 500, if we look on the hourly chart, you would think if this level of 1500 wasn't to hold up, that we would see a move down to this red line in the 1470s. Now that line is drawn that we had there in late November, around the 19th, and I've also drawn that out over the lows that we had there in late January. So you'd think that the 1470 level would probably serve as some sort of support for the S&P, and if that level was to break, I know I'm getting a little bit down the future now, but we've got this neckline here to that inverted head and shoulders pattern that has now been achieved. Necklines usually hold up as very strong support, so that's just something to keep in mind for the longer term view of the S&P. But for now, let's see how we go with this channel in the next week of trade, and eventually we will bust this area, but it's just a case of when. Funny enough, the Asx200 and the S&P are both in rising channels that just don't simply want to break. Okay, so going to the 15-minute chart again, for the bullish case scenario, well, we've got this purple line that I've got drawn on the chart. I've actually just changed the color slightly, and this here has pushed the markets down every time the S&P has come up to it. We take a look on the 3-day chart. That's this purple line here. And the S&P, each time it has approached this level, we've been slammed down. We slightly got over a little bit extended here with that head and shoulders top there that we seen in 2011, only to watch the markets get slammed back down again. So it is acting of technical significance, and we still need to get over that line. So it'd be interesting to see if the S&P can get up over this area. That would be showing really bullish signs, and then we would probably most likely head up to this green line here to tackle the 1530 region. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the S&P for today. Let's see what happens in tonight's trade, whether this red line will hold up and whether we'll get a tackle at this overhead resistance level in the 1520s. Let's take a look now at the Asx200. Okay, looking on the hourly chart here, guys, we've pretty much opened up in today's trade. We had a little bit of selling pressure early in the morning, and then for the rest of the day, the markets were able to hold up. And I think we closed up about 18 points or so. So that was quite another good day for the Asx200. One thing that I will say is, similar to the S&P, we've seen the Asx200 come up in this large channel. And in yesterday's video, we were talking about there's about a 65 point or so difference between this bottom line and this top line here. The interesting thing is, with the Asx200, is we've seen this steady buying pressure within this larger channel. But now we're sort of rising up, and the buying pressure is becoming slowly less. So I think that this may be a sign that we may be starting to slow down a little bit. Because when you see a larger channel working perfectly, and then all of a sudden we've seen this little channel just working ever so slowly, it tells us that similar to a rising wedge pattern, that the buying pressure is starting to wane. When we see the S&P 500 break its channel, it'll be interesting to see what kind of selling pressure that we see from the Asx200. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps up today's market update. There's not much else that I can add with the Asx200 at the moment, because it's behaving and doing its job. But let's just keep our eye on that smaller green channel line, because that's showing us that the buying pressure is starting to wane off a bit and the moves are becoming smaller. Alright guys, I'll be back tomorrow with another fresh daily market update.